Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Moments+peace podcast. My name is Mike with my lovely wife, Nereida, and today we're going to be talking to you about career path. That's right. What are you going to be actually sending these kids out to do? So, when you're planning out the career path of your high schooler and you're thinking ahead towards what are they going to be doing when they grow up, so to speak, where are they headed, what type of career do they want to have, I think that there's a lot of fear that kicks in the heart of a parent who's in that season. And we want to help dispel some of that. So some of the things that we've done have been career field trips to expose them to a different array of careers and options. Now let's start by defining our terms. So the word career just means a track or a path. It's different from a vocation. So the word vocation actually means calling. Think of the word vocal. You have a calling in your life. That's your vocation. But a career is actually a track or path that you walk that may be part of that vocation. So let's say your vocation is you feel called to share the gospel. So your career is that you're a pastor. But then your job is that you preach every day and you counsel people. So the difference between job, career, and vocation as three distinctions, I actually learned from a fellow named Dan Miller in his book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. And so understanding there's a difference there, your kid might have a vocation, they might have a calling in their life, and it might be to serve people in the medical world. But their career might be something like nursing. And their job might be, well, they're changing bedpans and doing all the other nasty stuff that sometimes scares people out of that career. So if you have an idea of what their vocation is, what their calling is in life, if they've kind of shared that, it's going to help them if you lay out for them several different careers or tracks or paths that they could walk down in order to live out their vocation, in order to live out their calling. So one thing that we did in our homeschool journey is create, with our homeschool community we're part of in the area that we live, is a career field trip. And that might be as simple as going to somebody's place of business, coordinating with them, and asking them, hey, would you be willing to have 15, 20, 30 homeschoolers come here and you explain exactly what your job is here, what your careers look like here? And so Nereida here actually planned that out. So why don't you talk just a bit about what those career field trips look like?
So for me, we're a part of a homeschool support group of about 300 families, and they had asked for me to be the high school coordinator. And I helped plan events, social events and stuff, which we'll talk about later. But one of the things I wanted to do was also be the high school career field trip coordinator. And I also allowed for certain field trips for middle school, particularly 7th and 8th grade, to come and start being exposed to stuff. So what I did was create a long list of ideas of careers, both that required the no further education, trade school, and some that were like straight up degrees. And I used a lot of the resources that I naturally had at my disposal. Like my son is a type 1 diabetic, so I asked his endocrinologist, and the entire hospital and her hosted us. And that we got to talk to an RN, we got to talk to her, and we got to talk to the administrative side of it. Because sometimes you can go in the medical field and you're just like a data entry person and setting appointments and stuff. The other person was an RN, and kind of like why they chose to be an RN, why particularly with endocrinology, and then what does it take to be an endocrinologist? And in that, it was also really cool because she got to compare what that's like compared to regular practice and also like a brain surgeon. Right. And we got to talk about what a day in a life looks like. We got to we had a time for Q&A. I collected questions ahead of time for some of them. Other times, we also allowed for spontaneity in the questions right there at the moment. So that was actually one of the first field trips we went to. Then we did...
well, let me just say this real quick. Most anybody in any field would be willing to take the time, I say most, but most people would be willing to take the time to explain to a bunch of young people, hey, what does this career look like? Mm-hmm. What would it actually look like to be fill in the blank? Mm-hmm. Because you got to think about, if you're in their shoes, you do the same job every day, you see patients every day. And then if you say, hey, we have this community outreach event where some people are going to come here and we can explain our trade, our career, our job, and maybe some people will be interested in doing it, and it could be what sets some student off in the right direction.
Yeah.
So you got to think of the perspective too. If you're thinking, well, I can't go ask people, you actually just can.
Yeah.
You go ask if you have a direct contact with a pediatrician's office or your doctor or even a grocer.
And they're very, very more than willing to do it.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. I decided, and a lot of the field trips that I'm going to throw out there, just keep in mind that I did it over the course of 4 years. So,
one career field trip every
month.
maybe 2 months
Every
or so.
month.
Oh,
every
that's right.
month.
We did it every month.
Started in September and went until April. So we didn't do May because May is chaotic with testing,
and you skipped the
graduation,
summer. Yep.
and we didn't do the June or July because everyone's off. But we did do one starting in late August or early September, and we took off the month of December.
Right.
And sometimes we took off the month of November too, and then we'd start right back in the new year. So some of the ideas I'm going to list out here that we actually did take a lot of planning on my side. Some people were harder to get in contact with than others, but it's amazing how when you set out to do something, the response you'll get or the connections and people that you'll meet from there. So one of the biggest field trips we did was with 100 students plus a few chaperones, and that was to the North Carolina Supreme Court to talk to Justice Newby. And that was a really neat, and we got to sit in the courtroom. We got to talk to him, talk to a paralegal, see the path of a paralegal versus a justice. And he's really great with speaking with the youth and stuff too. And that was a thorough Q&A. So the normal field trip, I made a list of all the places we would like to go. And a lot of it had to deal with what my own kids were interested in and those closest to me. Then I would contact the company place and ask what would the cap be, how do we handle parking, where should we meet. And then for me, because I was doing it a part of a pretty large homeschool community, I would have people sign up, and inevitably because of sickness or lack of diligence,
It's like a 10%
about 10%
rule.
of people didn't
Yeah.
show up. So I would do a little
Every
bit
time.
above the quoted cap. And from that time,
Meaning if they were willing to host 100 people, you'd say, we have sign up for 110. Knowing
no,
that 10
I would say 100 and allow 110 people privately to sign up.
Oh, gotcha.
And then I would go through my list. And sure
Somebody-
enough, day of someone got sick or, someone couldn't make it for some reason,
Yeah.
car trouble,
When you've
or
got that
someone
many
who just
people.
forgets because
Yeah, right.
they have been just absent-minded people. And so according to our homeschool guideline support group at the time, if you miss without any type of notice, that was kind of like a strike against you because it makes us look bad. So you wouldn't necessarily get first dibs on your next sign up if it was a continual problem. It's usually 1, 2. After that, the third time, you're kind of asked.
Yeah.
And we talked about, so we had everybody meet about 15 minutes prior to the actual time scheduled so I could check everyone in, make sure they got there safely. I counted for everyone, which is a pretty large task. And some parents who naturally volunteered to be a chaperone, I allowed. Some I had to cap because we needed more room for students or because we were at our max, because some students did drive by themselves.
Yeah.
And so, obviously the mom wanted to make sure that they got there and then, they got back. We'd always take a group picture because we do have a yearbook as well. And then every personal family enjoys those pictures as well. So we did that. There's a check-in process. And then most of the companies also went out of their way to provide either snacks or lunch for us. And we allowed it about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I always gave an outline to the company or the host prior to us attending. And the same thing for those, the closer they got, like who was confirmed on the list and who, how they were going to come. We reiterated the code of conduct of just basic etiquette and how things were going to flow. So after that, I would pick the best time to do stuff. So like we did one where a day in a life in a pastor, is seminary necessary, how to go through that. And so we decided to do that in the month of October since that's Pastor Appreciation Month.
That's right.
Yeah, so I personally don't like being in medical facilities in the winter. So we did late August for the endocrinology and medical field. We did auto mechanics, and
Our
usually,
auto mechanic, we just asked him,
we just
hey,
asked
would you be, and he's a homeschool dad,
Yep.
right up the street, and just said, hey, would you be willing to have a bunch of homeschool kids come? And we just planned a date.
And that one had to be smaller because he was way more hands-on. He took them in their shop. They provided lunch for us.
It was like
under
12 to
hood.
15.
I think that was 25.
25?
25 was like the limit. And that one was so fun. And a kid got a job.
Yes,
Two
one of the
kids got a job
Okay, that's
from
right.
that one. And so that was awesome.
At that auto mechanic shop.
That auto mechanic shop. So that was great. And
And we did the HVAC one, because that's my trade. For those of you who
That's
don't
right.
know, is I do HVAC work.
and I did that one in the winter because you guys
We're
are
slower in the winter. So we actually had one of the students that came there, came and got a job working for the HVAC company maybe 3 months later
And
when he
that
graduated.
That was extremely neat. Actually,
We did that
he
in
was
a
18
February.
already. He
That's
was
right.
due to graduate in May and got the job part-time in April and then went full-time
Yep.
in May. And he was there for a few years. And that was great because your presentation showed them that it's not just HVAC and this is it. There's commercial, there's constructions, there's, and mechanical engineering. And then you showed them the pay grade and scale for
Right.
each bit. And it
At
was
that
very
time-
eye-opening.
At that time, I was the training and development manager at an HVAC company. So I created an entire PowerPoint and got the data about which, in fact, one day maybe we can do a whole HVAC career video. That'd be kind of cool. But
Yes.
I did a whole breakdown of what you get paid in each line of work, all the different options you go to. So it was and then we had other people that I work with come and share their experience about how they got into it. I mean, we spent 2 hours, I think.
2 hours.
The
And
company
you guys provided lunch.
The company provided pizzas and sodas, and it was just cookies, and it was just a really good. It's a good PR thing too for companies. Like it actually benefits them if it shows that they're pouring back into the community.
And you had an apprenticeship program, and that allowed because
Yeah.
that aligned with the community college, and a lot of kids went that route so
Right.
that they were a little bit further in, and other ones who just got hired on pretty quickly after that. And that was a really neat field trip because you got to the construction guys, females in the HVAC
That was kinda
industry,
cool. Yeah.
that both from office managers to a female running the sheet metal shop.
Yep, that's right.
And so that I think opened up a lot of people's eyes. So that was great.
And there was 60 kids in there.
That one was about 65. Yep.
Yeah, I remember
because we opened that one up to middle schoolers.
Yeah, the meeting room normally would house probably 50 people or so.
Yeah, we were
But
kinda
we took all the
crammed.
tables out and then put just chairs lined up in rows, and we crammed a lot of people in
Yeah,
there.
and
But
a
it was
lot of people
packed.
loved that because there was even the possibility of living on the beach side.
That's right. The
because
company I
of that.
work for has an office down by the beach. So yeah.
So that was a great field trip, and we also enjoyed that one. There was and all the benefits and the different views of everybody, the difference between commercial and residential HVAC. So that was great. And then another one we did was with law enforcement. We had
That's
police
right.
officers come and talk to us and talked about fentanyl and the career path and the DARE program, and
at
then
a
they
church.
re-invited
We met
us
at a
back
church, and we opened it up for the police to come to us, and then they re-invited us to.
to go. They got special permission to let us see the bomb squad,
Yes,
the
with the little
dogs,
robot.
and all of the building, and that was extremely fun. We did one at the firehouse. We did that one at the firehouse.
That's right, yep.
We did so the Supreme Court, the firehouse, medical, law enforcement, missionaries. We did missionaries with the what's it called, the North American
Mission Board.
with the Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
So we did that one. A church hosted us, and they had a whole missionary group and people there. So we did the pastor. Then the next year we did the missionaries because we actually had people going to missionary full time, and that was interesting. I want to say we also
There's a property management company.
yes, that one was great. Accounting.
in Raleigh, and
Yes.
the property management company did a whole career field trip for us, and they also had lunch and
That
stuff.
one was fantastic. They did. They hosted us with tacos, and that was great. And they were fantastic. That one had to be smaller, so we narrowed it down to mainly high schoolers.
It was 20 or 30?
I want to say it was
20,
about 30 because it was their whole company.
Yeah.
Office that we kind of took over.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great one because it explained to the kids, like, yeah, you got to be good in math, but and this is why algebra matters, because you want your equations and your books to balance. But the thing that people got the most out of was your character. Going the extra mile, picking the trash up, when you're not called to. And those are the people that get bonuses. Those are the people that get asked for promotions. And the phone. Get off your phone. You're not paid to be on your phone. And then some people have to put it in their closet or in their little drawer and stuff to do it. And so that was a big one too. And that one was fantastic to do. One was a Christmas tree farmer. we did agriculture and stuff like that. And so there is across the board,
really
limitless.
I mean, these are just ideas that we came up with.
There was a welding one. That they went to. Oh, and I did the dentist one where a student went in because there's a 3 months dentist assistant school, and they got to see the models. They got to do everything like that. And one of my kids was ill that week, so they couldn't make it. But my partner that stepped in, which is great when you lead well and you can delegate, it ran smoothly without me. But that particular trip was a fantastic one too. And a student is actually today making $23 an hour after 3 months of school, debt free.
As an assistant, right?
As a dental assistant with an oral surgeon.
Yeah.
So that was an also opportunity too, just because I did that career field trip.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to see that, it's a way that you can pour back into whatever other homeschool families are in your community, and you might see that somebody gets a job out of it.
And even if it's just you yourself. Oh, another one we did was a radio host. We went to a radio host, went to his studio, checked that whole thing out, and what it took to be in radio and have the voice and podcasting and, how he got national. So all of that was another interesting thing, a great Q&A time as well. So we did quite a bit of stuff, and that was a fun time going with him because we did it around the political time and he was on the radio. So in November and stuff. So that was a fun time to go and do that. So it was kind of like whatever idea, and then we just asked, and some people I had to be a little bit more persistent with. Other people were like very easy to get back to. Sometimes there's like a little bit of negotiations that you have to do as far as like how many people can come, where do they, logistical stuff. But overall, it was all free. They were willing to do it. They were willing to pay for us to have food and just to host us and get it, especially the trades. The trades want young people and let them know that they don't have to go to school for 4 years, get in massive debt that's going to take years for them to get paid off, and then hopefully make the money that they could have been making 2 years ago if they got it. So it's a great opportunity to pour into your own children. Even if you and a couple of friends did it, it's the same format. You would just go, but it would just be you guys on a smaller scale. Or if you're you have a homeschool support group, that's a great thing that you can bring to the table to widen everyone's view of doing it. And you give your students a taste for something that they maybe not even thought about doing.
Yep.
And you get to just see what a day in a life is, and they can ask any questions. Another one, like I know my son on a more one-on-one basics got to talk to a dad at church about truck driving and what truck driving was like. And he wrapped his mind around that whole thing and decided that he doesn't want to do it. So, but it was really good. And I really highly recommend pouring into doing that. Just get a pen and paper, or if you're a laptop person, and just write out some ideas, find out a content that you can get to, and just know that companies and people are more than willing, especially now that we've gotten over the C word and things are open. It's a lot better, because that's the only thing that really shut us down was when that happened. And then we slowly had to get it back up going, and next year I'll be doing it again.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
so it can be a blessing for your own family and also for the families around you. So we hope this was a blessing. It sparked some ideas. If you come up with some great career field trip ideas, we would love to see that in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, because we would love to get other great ideas about, different field trips that we could, because we still have kids.
doing
We're
banking
going through the
next.
process. Oh, that's right. Banking.
Banking
Yep.
is the next one. Yeah.
So make sure that you like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and that you subscribe on iTunes if you're listening on whatever podcast app you're using. Giving us a review would really help us spread the word about this podcast. And we are so blessed to be able to serve you. We are signing off, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.